Hey there, Malika, or Inspector Spinda. How's it going? Thanks for being willing to do a critique. And congratulations, because this is the first in a new sort of style or format that I'm trying to do these critiques in that will most likely be shorter, mainly because I've done all of my draw over stuff ahead of time, and so I can just sort of focus on my thoughts and getting them out to you. So here's some of your art here, and I think it's really nice. I think it's on kind of the higher end quality of what you might call like a TV animation style. One of the things you mentioned that you view as sort of a weakness or something you'd like to work on is your shading. And as far as, you know, my analysis of your stuff goes, I think that's something we can sort of get to, or it's something that's maybe a symptom of what I'd like you to be working on. So let me just pull up what I've got here. Let's start with the cats. What I see here, and what I see in a lot of your work, is this mix, right, of very flat graphical work, but also constructed work. So something like this cat here is kind of all flat shapes, right? You have a very distinct, you know, triangle head that's flat, eyes on top of it flat. Great. You know, that's kind of like there's a lot of TV animation that goes along these lines where you just sort of have characters on one plane, right? And almost like, you know, like a stage, right? Or sort of like a flash animated kind of thing, where each of these shapes is very distinct and they're not supposed to be projecting any kind of form, right? Legs, one big shape. But then what's kind of happening is we get over to here and you have this cat who has a lot of flat shapes in the face here. You even have the eye kind of going off to the side. This chest is it's a cool shape. Like these cats are really cool looking. You know, just remember this might come across as negative, but it's definitely not. It's just a way to kind of help you out. This ear here is what I would consider to be constructed, right? There's a dimensionality to it because this piece here is overlapping, and we just get enough idea of what it looks like in 3D space, right? But then sort of all through here we have this very like hieroglyphic flat look. And so really it's just an idea of making a choice, right? Which do you want to kind of go with? These legs here I would consider to be constructed, right? Because these legs are behind, this leg is behind. Same over here, right? The direction of these paws is a little bit, they could be going, you know, they're kind of facing like this when they should be kind of facing the same direction. Something that's going to help you, I think, is to do more turnaround work and really to get a good idea of what your characters look like in 3D space. So I did an example of that up here. Again, the character throughout his form here is very dimensional. We get a good like 3/4 view of him, but then there's a lot of flatness to the shape of the head. And so what I did was I added I just did a side view and a 3/4 view where there's that dimensionality, right? And that's something that you can do as well. I also noticed that a lot of the spotting, like the acne here, is very consistent, and it's kind of working against you. It looks like, you know, these are kind of all just placed in a way so that it continues the flat look. And what I did here was it's very subtly different, but I, you know, placed the acne on the planes of the face, right, to inform the dimension a little bit more. Up here with this character, I think this is where I think your shading is really just a lack of 3D spaces to work in, and because this character on his own is shaded really nice. So it's not so much like your shading technique, it's what information is available to you to shade that might be an issue. And I came up with this possible solution. I like the idea of the mouth kind of hanging out the side, but it's that, you know, right here, but it's that same idea of, is this a flat graphical character or is it one that's 3D? Because then I look at your comic work and there's definitely some movement in 3D, right? And it might be difficult to always position this character so that, you know, the side of his mouth is not there, right? It's possible, but maybe it's limiting in some way. So not an end-all solution here, but it's just a possible one, is to, you know, shore up that side of the mouth. You can still make the mouth an asymmetrical shape, but just having that sidewall of the cheek. So this would be, I think that's pretty visible, right? And still having this lip come out the side, again, great. And then I just did a little bit here where maybe there's some wrapping, right? Just these corners are kind of sanded down, and what's happening is the hairline starts to do this quick little lip at the end, and that's sort of to indicate that it's wrapping around the back of his head. And so all those little construction things and dimension things are just giving the illusion of depth, right? And that's why it's sometimes tricky to get that that illusion of depth in there, because one little thing can kind of throw you off. Here with this pose, it's really nice. What I would suggest is kind of seeking out reference for these kinds of poses. What I basically did was there's a few different things. One thing would be to kind of push the pose of your character more, following a single line of action. This is a little side sketch I did where the leg kind of tucks in a little bit more, right? You can see that happening here. And also the sizes of the legs seem a little bit inconsistent, so making sure that they're about the same size. Here is a place where it's probably better for you to have the bottom of the leg overlapping the top with this line, so basically a line that goes like this instead of a line that goes like this, right? And it's, you know, very minute when that is, but I think that'll help your depth there. It'd be nice to kind of tuck the chin in a little bit more here, a little more confident. And then really quick here, and I don't even know that my version is all that much better, but just making sure that you're making distinct marks when it comes to the segments of your arms, right? Right here it looks a little bit like you did this and then kind of added some pieces in afterwards. Just make sure that you've got like a nice, you know, spot for the shoulder, spot for the elbow, spot for the hand. And what I did here was I first of all, in this layer, or with this second, when I chose where my shoulders and hip lines would be. I actually didn't do it here, I did it down here. And so for here, I would bring this shoulder forward, right? Push this one back behind the head a little bit, just to make it a little bit more dynamic, a little bit less like it's flat, okay? And one final thing with color, I like this character a lot. I actually don't think I caught the name. Oh, Benny is the name of this character. Small change I made, and I actually screenshotted the hue, the color, what I did here. So just something to be careful with black skin tones like this sometimes is it's easy to make them look a little bit desaturated, right? Which, like, all the more power to you if you are doing something stylized. Here's my change, right? It's just a little more blood under the skin, right? Which is what all humans have. Just kind of brings a little more life and vitality back to the character. What I did was a hue shift a little bit to the red side of things, tiny bump in saturation, and I was actually able to bring the brightness down, right? So obviously there's a difference between black skin and olive skin, right? And cartoons can be any color we want, and maybe the vibe you're going for is sort of a desaturated or kind of washed out tone, right? But this is something that, you know, I think gives you a little bit more space to work in, and you can kind of vary the hue and everything, vary the tone of the skin. Anyway, those are a few of my changes and thoughts for you. All the best to you moving forward. I think your work is in a really good place, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks a lot.